Eric and Duncan, this will be viewed by over 4,000 Walmart and Sam suppliers, and they'll have access to this podcast and video podcast. So let's shift and talk about them for a minute, because they're going to lean in here on this question. I know they will, because the question is, what does digital commerce look like for that supplier? You know, that Walmart and Sam supplier. How do you support them? How can you help them? And then I'd like to talk for you all to talk about the future a bit. And let's let you dream a bit or talk about some of the things you're working on for the future. So let's go deep there with the supplier for a moment.
Yeah, maybe I'll start with the Walmart side first, Duncan. I'd like to hear Duncan kind of spread it out, even like, you know, from a brand at a corporate level, right? Because we don't really necessarily have at White Spider. We don't, you know, we focus so much on Walmart, but what does that mean for Walmart and Sam's Club as well? Specifically there, the catalog, kind of to Duncan's point, it's a different model than what other retailers might be, specifically Amazon. And so when you have a different model, you have a different catalog. And the catalog is different, which is going to require different attribution, different content, different things that are needed to logistically make things happen in Walmart's model that they have. And so I think that's been one of the big gaps that I've experienced, at least over the years, is when you come to Walmart, and if you come with a kind of more of a one size fits all perspective, it becomes challenging in the Walmart catalog, because there's so many things that are still needed at Walmart's side for omnichannel to work properly, right? And I think that's one of the biggest challenges I've noticed, is how do you get more attention to that? How do you get more resources applied to that specific retailer's catalog to make sure that your items are able to be discovered, and then when people discover them, that they can convert? And specifically, I mean, it's not just the shoppers being able to discover them, but it's the algorithms being able to find out what that item is, where it's placed at within the store. And those things are extremely important. And then plus you have, you know, a lot of the other things that are available to manufacturers within Walmart and Sam's Club, which are unique ways to promote and advertise and expose your products to new shoppers that are digitally led, like Duncan was talking about. And so I think that's when you think about digital commerce, you know, coming to the table with a very unique perspective for Walmart, digital commerce is a really big win. And I've seen a lot of manufacturers starting to embrace that mentality. And of course, when they come to us, we already have that unique perspective at White Spider, which kind of gives us a little bit of a opportunity to help that manufacturer accelerate in that space, because our mentality is already there. Manufacturers are trusting us to keep that, and we are able to help them accelerate quickly within the Walmart and Sam's Club infrastructure.
Yeah, I think the e-commerce and White manufacturers have to really see this as a huge opportunity. But like all big opportunities, it comes with an initial quite heavy burden. Yeah. So they kind of, because they've got to think very differently about their business. In the past, they would have thought about a category and then a sort of subcategory of products, because ultimately in their relationship with Walmart in days of old, their objective was to get a decent slug of their products on that shelf in that 6x2 kind of, you know, rough or 2 meters by 2 area, and as long as they got a decent amount of their product working with Walmart there, they had a pretty good chance with brand marketing and other activities to get good sales. Now in the digital world, you know, of course there is some degree of restriction, but it's a lot less in product selection than it was in a physical store. And so nowadays they're competing with many more people, with many more products, trying to get positioned into that literally 7-inch piece of square glass that someone's got in front of them. And so they've got to have a different attitude about what work they've got to do. The environment is going to expect them to probably do a little bit more of the heavy lifting than they're used to. So they're going to have to do a lot of the work to get the content right, the message right, the descriptor of the product right. Why are those products going on? What is the real USP of those products? And then, as Eric said, you know, it's the first time ever in the history of being a manufacturer where a retailer is genuinely giving you the tools to come in and daily influence the product sales you can make for your individual product within their environment. And so they're empowering manufacturers like they've never done before. But I think it requires, as you said, manufacturers to now really lean in and recognize that if they don't do the work and they don't position themselves brilliantly on those marketplaces, they are going to lose market share. And so it's really is a fundamental requirement that they need capabilities that help them automate a lot of that work, because it's very mundane. You said, that it's a little bit like your point of sale kind of analogy. It's very important work, but can be pretty mundane. Yeah. Well, digital commerce is the same. It's very, very important work, but pretty monotonous and mundane. And as Eric then said, once you've done all that work to get your products on there, you're not competing with a human to sort of work out, or selling to a human about how your product gets prime location. You're negotiating with an algorithm. So you need to figure out what makes algorithms work, and so it's those two core skills: automation of getting your products on, ensuring when they're on that they really are presented to the best they can be, but in a language the consumer most wants them to find them by, not what you as a manufacturer want to describe them by. You genuinely got to put your head into the feet and the shoes and the life of the consumer to say, how are they going to think about how they want to buy my product? And then finally, you've got the ability to influence that, real time in a day. But all of this gets done if you've got the right technology, the right people, and the right kind of approach to this market. So it's a very different mindset to how a manufacturer would traditionally think about engaging with a retailer to sell product.
One thing you brought up, Duncan, that when you talk about the phone and that screen size, right? I mean, what a different world.
Yeah.
You worked with Sam Walton, right? Which was,
I did.
Yeah, it's a wonderful thing. A little jealous about that, but like you were mentioning earlier, like, can you imagine, I don't know if Sam could have imagined this, but the ability for a third-party seller to kind of come in and interrupt that visibility. And not only that, but also if a manufacturer, 1P, what we call 1P, first-party manufacturer, is out of stock for their item, right, and it's digitally led, and they're sitting there looking at this real estate space that the shopper has to discover an item. That's serious stuff right there. If you're out of stock, or if your content's missing, or maybe your product type is not labeled correctly, and so you're now being exposed to assortment in third parties that have never existed before in a store base, right? That's a hard learning curve to really understand the impact of that. Because I can say one thing with confidence: not only is it the catalog's different at Walmart, but their intention of increasing the assortment has been accelerated tremendously. Like when we first started, got partnered with Walmart, they only had, I think, roughly about 40 million items on .com, right? That's not the case anymore. There's hundreds of millions of items on Walmart.com, and there's going to be even more. Right. And so I think that what I have not seen a lot of the first-party major brands that are traditionally work with Walmart do is seeing them get really, really serious about their own expanded catalog at Walmart. Even though Walmart may ask for that, I don't see that response with the intensity that maybe it could be. Not that I'm saying that they should be, but they could be, right? If I have 100 items at Walmart and they're in store on a major brand, but I have 500 items in my catalog, how serious am I about bringing those other 400 in? And then how serious am I about making sure I'm winning search and being an aggressive seller as a third party with Walmart? That's some serious business.
Yeah, and I think the other way to think about it, if you're a manufacturer, is slightly different, which is you can only produce so much physical product. And in the omnichannel model, that physical product being in a store, you now have two ways to sell it. So you get two bites of the same cherry for the same product, right? You've not, so if you're a manufacturer going through other direct to market, that stock's gone and the inventory's through that channel and it's fixed in that channel. Whereas in this model, you've got the physical store opportunity, and an online opportunity, all fighting for the same single product. And I just think when you look at most manufacturers, they're not thinking of it that way. They're really not thinking about, if we're on both as strongly, we get double the chance to sell our products. And we are opening up, as you say, Andy. You said, Eric said it. The digitization of retail has basically made it the most competitive time ever for a manufacturer. So my advice to them would be, if you've got a 2 bites at the same cherry, why would you not be leaning in and getting every opportunity of that to get that product sold?
That's good.
This conversation brings me to a conversation that Sam Walton had with us many times. But when we had our Saturday morning meetings, we would invite suppliers, companies, manufacturers to the Saturday morning meeting. And once we got through the Saturday morning meeting and through all the sales and all the things around the country, around the world, then we'd move into what we called a merchandise meeting. Sam loved our merchandise meetings. We would have them on Friday, and he was always there. And if he sat by you and you had a sandwich, he'd eat half of it. But I've looked down and half of my sandwich has been gone many times. But he loved merchandise. Sam was a merchant, and he ensured everyone to be a merchant. But what he would teach us over and over and over on those Saturday mornings, and especially when the suppliers and manufacturers is in the audience, that we had the same customer. And he kept, because manufacturers looked at us and said, my customer is Walmart. He said, no, your customer is our customer. It's the consumer. Because if you're not doing a great job across the board, and it wasn't a digital discussion back then, it was more of supply chain, logistics, and manufacturing, but it was all about what you're just saying, Duncan. They have the same customer. We all have the same customer now, or consumer. And it's even more important today, what you're saying, Duncan, to service that consumer properly, because now it's open to everyone.
Yeah, the way to think about it was, back then, and he was spot on, right? I started my career in retail, right? Everything is about the detail of what's presented. But, a simple way to think about it is what digital was bought is in times of old when you weren't serving that customer as well through a store, it was an effort. They had to drive or go to another one to find a product or do something else. Now it's 3 clicks on a phone and they get to see, 100% of the market across every opportunity to reach that product. So it's no effort for the consumer anymore. In days of old, there was physical restriction as to why they might stay more loyal to a badly merchandised or a badly presented product, because they were physically there and they'd made the effort to go there, right? And it was more effort to go elsewhere. Now it's 3 clicks and no effort to move. So it's the mindset of the consumer is they're actively encouraged now to not be loyal.
You're right.
Yeah.